What's up guys, my name is Edward.
And hi, my name is Chi.
Today we're going to give you guys 5 causes of hip dips. So before we begin this video, we're just going to explain to you guys what we think the definition of hip dips are.
So we think that hip dips are the distortion of your natural body line.
Yeah, so the body line contours or your silhouette. So if there's any weird sort of like kinks in the silhouette, it kind of throws your eyes off it. And that's what obviously hip dips are. But these are primarily obviously in the hip region, and that's what we think hip dips are. But what people will tell you hip dips are is that it's caused by your bone structure, and if you have hip dips, you can't get rid of them. So today we're going to give you 5 causes of hip dips so you can understand if you can actually fix your hip dips or if you can't. So let's stand away from this and let's quickly explain some of these causes. So of the causes of hip dips, we have 3 major elements that are causing hip dips. The first is exercise, the next element is diet, and the third factor is clothing, which she is blocking with her hair. Yeah. And within those, we've got individual causes. So the first cause is overtrained core muscles. Then there's also squat-induced hip dips. So this is exercise-related causes of hip dips.
Too many squats.
Yeah. You can do the other 2, please.
So then you have being too lean, having love handles in your diet, and then just stretch fabrics or clothing.
Yeah. So now we're going to quickly explain to you guys in a little bit more details what these are.
Okay, so the first cause of hip dips we're going to explain is an overtrained core.
Yeah. So on the left side, we're going to put a normal body silhouette here. As you can see, there's no hip dips. It's a nice and uniform silhouette. Here you have an overtrained core. And what this causes is a distortion right here in the actual silhouette of the physique, and that causes a hip dip. So in reality, a lot of MMA fighters that are female have this type of hip dips. And this is because they overtrain their core muscles, especially the obliques. Once you do that, obviously, it causes your upper body, your torso, to be a little bit wider than your actual hips. And this is much more prominent if you actually have narrow hips. So if you have a mesomorphic frame, like I do, I'm a guy, I've got a mesomorphic frame. If you overtrain your core muscles, then you're going to end up with your torso being wider than your hips. And you're going to end up with hip dips. So if this is you, make sure that you don't overtrain your core muscles. Your core muscles don't need to be overtrained for you to have abs. All you need to do is obviously lean up. You need your core muscles to be strong, but it's got more to do with you being lean. If you want your core muscles to literally stick out, then yeah, you have to really train them, but make sure you don't overtrain the obliques, just to be really specific with that.
And also, it's how you tense your abs.
Yeah, also how you tense your abs. So I made a video about this. So I'm just going to quickly put it up on the right hand side here right now. It's called Get Six Pack in 5 Minutes. Watch the video, it shows you how to flex your abs properly. If you don't flex your abs properly, then you're going to end up having a muffin top of muscle.
So the second cause of hip dips we're going to be looking at is squat-induced hip dips.
So squat-induced hip dips are simply caused by yourself. I think the actual cause of this is that females, when they want obviously to grow their glutes, they think the first thing I need to do is go to the gym and I need to squat heavy weights. So what happens is they end up squatting a lot of heavy weights in the gym, and they're only looking at themselves, I think, from the side. So they're like, oh, my glutes are making progress. The only problem with that is that squats is a compound exercise, right, Chi?
Yeah.
So what that means is it trains more than one muscle, right? So as your glutes are growing, people are not actually looking at their quads. And what ends up happening is the vastus lateralis muscle, which is on the actual outside portion of your quads, that gets bigger. Now, if you're someone with narrow hips or a mesomorphic frame, what can end up happening is your quads end up becoming wider than your hips. And when that happens, obviously it's going to end up having to go back into your hips. So when you end up wearing something that's quite form-fitting, like high-waisted jeans or high-waisted leggings, or even a dress, you're going to end up with a huge distortion away from the natural line of the physique, which is this. And then obviously you've got hip dips. And naturally, the natural lines of the physique, your quads are supposed to get narrower and narrower and narrower along a nice gradient until they enter into your knees. So if it's like really straight or going wide out and then in, it looks wrong. So to avoid squat-induced hip dips.
You know what? Some people like it, and I agree.
Some people like it. If that's what you wanted, I mean, I know lots of female bodybuilders have that frame. Yeah. If that's what you wanted, then cool. But if you didn't want this and this happened by accident because you're trying to grow your glutes, what you need to do is take a break. Don't train your quads anymore or train your glutes, especially not with squats, because squats is going to train your quads primarily, right? Instead, do hip thrust. Hip thrust will train your glutes more so than your quads, right? So then you don't end up having this situational problem. But to be honest, this problem mostly happens with females that have narrow hips. If you've got wide hips, the only reason why you might get away with this, let's do this again, is that someone with wide hips, choose an example, your waist actually basically gets wider up until your hip bones, right? So as it gets wider into your hip bones, as you can see, the angle, instead of it being like a 180 degree, like really sharp, straight line like this, there's a gradient here. And what that means is you can get your quads wider and it won't distort the physique. Does that make sense? She's obviously trying to correct my drawing skills, but that's what I mean. So you can end up having wider quads. You end up obviously with narrow legs and wide hips. That's because you haven't been eating enough food, and then you end up with really big hip dips and actually a distortion away from your natural physique, because instead of it flowing well, it kind of looks like this.
So the third cause of hip dips is being too lean.
Yeah, so if you're too lean, then you're going to end up with hip dips. The reason is, obviously, this is why a lot of people say hip dips is caused by your bone structure. In a way it is. Obviously, you've got your hip bones in a certain place, and that can cause hip dips. But generally, your bones shouldn't be sticking out. Now, if you have, obviously, less fat in your body, then obviously that's going to basically, what's the word called, emphasize your bone structure, if it makes sense. And that happens when you're too lean. If you're not too lean, obviously you should generally have a natural silhouette that is nice and sort of straight.
You have a bit of fat around
it. We call it subcutaneous fat. So this is the fat underneath the skin, right? And that's what causes them. But a lot of people nowadays, this is an anorexic physique, by the way. The only problem is nowadays with fitness, lots of people want to be lean. So what people do is they train, they gain muscle, and they lose a lot of fat. So someone who is really low on body fat, who should look like this, instead looks quite fit. So for example, right now I look quite fit, but my body fat is quite low. So if I didn't have all of this muscle, then you notice that I'm really, bony, and obviously I have a lot of, my bones will be showing and I don't have a lot of fat. So the only problem with that is that not every part of your body has muscles, right? And the places that don't have muscles, when you get lean, they tend to look more bony than other places. So for me, near my collarbone is a place that doesn't have a lot of muscles at the top. So my collarbone gets quite bony, but you end up having muscles, your upper chest muscles, for instance, that cover that a little bit. But around your hips, there's a slight dent in the side where there's not a lot of muscles there. And if you have low fat, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up seeing definitions of your actual glutes. You're going to actually see your glute muscles for what they are, and they don't look pretty.
So you're going to see the separation.
Yeah, you're going to see the separations, and then you're going to see the quads. You're going to see all of the muscle intricacies, and it's going to reveal a big crater in the side, which is the hip dip, which I haven't actually drawn in this picture, but it should be somewhere around right there. Right? So you're going to end up seeing like a dip in that region, and that's only because there's not a lot of muscle there and there's not a lot of fat. So once you lose so much fat, you lose so much subcutaneous fat, it's going to reveal obviously the bone structure, which shouldn't generally be revealed. So now we're not saying don't be lean. Like being lean, there's different levels of being lean. If you're lean to a degree where you can just about see your abs as a girl, and in certain lights it might look better, then that's about how lean you want to be. You're not going to end up having super big hip dips. If you look at our hip dip video that she made, it's going to be somewhere up here. You see that she had only one hip dip, and that's after not training for a while and not exercising, not eating enough calories as well. She was low in calories. So as you can see in the video, her abs look quite shredded, but the hip dip started to come through because she started getting too lean. We didn't actually want her to get that lean, but once we came back from the Body Power Expo and life hit us, we didn't actually manage to get back on our diets or train. So we all lost weight. Now we're back sort of gaining again. So you can actually follow her as she actually gets rid of her hip dips, and you can see if you can actually get rid of them.
So now we're looking at the fourth causes of hip dips, and it's love handles.
Alright, you can step aside. Well, let's switch sides. You can explain this.
Yeah, I think it's on my tongue. So basically, love handles are lovely. However, if you do have love handles, it can cause hip dips, especially when you're wearing high-waisted jeans or high-waisted leggings. So what happens is, by tucking in the fat underneath your leggings or whatever, it basically emphasizes the bulge and the gap between your hips and your stomach.
Yeah,
you can basically
exactly.
say.
Yeah.
So if you basically have love handles, stick to wearing just normal waisted leggings, not high-waisted leggings, because it just flatters you better and
exactly.
it makes you look better. So even if you want to go with the trend of wearing high-waisted stuff, sometimes think about what your body looks best in instead of what everyone else is wearing.
Yeah.
And that way you can just, avoid having.
And I think the same thing with like really form-fitting dresses, like what she's wearing right now. But the easiest way to do this is what she said: wear something from there, like just near the hips, down, like trousers, and then you won't end up having that kink in your silhouette.
Especially when you go into the gym.
Yeah, or you can lose weight. If you get rid of the fat and get rid of the love handles, it will get rid of the hip dips, right? So they're not permanent. If you have love handle and these hip dips, get rid of the love handles and you'll get rid of problem solved. So the fifth cause of hip dips, final cause of hip dips, is stretch fabrics.
Yeah, so basically, since stretch fabrics came out, it's more for just swimwear, underwear, but now it's everything. Absolutely everything. So
why are they useful? Like, why do you think they're useful for some women to wear stretch fabrics?
So basically, the whole point is, if you have fitting issues when you buy clothing, like anything stiff like cotton, you're not going to have a nice fit. It may not fit you properly. So now they have spandex or elastin, and the mixed fibers help people just wear whatever they want and they can still fit it.
Exactly.
So I've just explained why there was a need for stretchy fabrics and like maybe things like denim and stuff like that. So we have jeggings and stuff, but I'm just saying it's not for every single body type. Sometimes when you wear something that isn't suited for you, it'll emphasize things that you don't want to see. And so, for example, when you're over exercising your gluteus maximus, gluteus medius from squatting, right,
and doing hip thrusts as well.
And hip thrusts, what happens is this muscle here becomes really bulgy, and maybe this muscle, but nothing here.
That's the hip dip region, and normally it wouldn't look as bad even if you had overtrained gluteus medius muscles if you're wearing something that wasn't high-waisted. When you wear something high-waisted that you don't have a big gradient between your waist and your hips, it doesn't look good. It looks almost like a rectangle. It looks like you put something over a rectangle, like a tube. It doesn't end up looking good. I think what you think you
draw
look
to
like,
illustrate.
The drawing is right here. I think what you think you look like is this. If you have large, obviously, hips, you can look like this, right? But if your hips are narrow, you're going to end up looking more like this if you try and sort of grow your glutes too much. Of course, from the side, you won't look like this. From the side, you'll look good. You'll look obviously like you have the glutes and everything like that. So you'll see the curves from the side and you'll be like, oh, look, I'm making progress. Like, look at me. Like, that looks great, right? But the problem is, the high-waisted garments will emphasize the glutes from the side profile only. From the front, you're going to look literally square, like really flat, and from the back, it's going to look like this. So don't overtrain your glutes, because remember, your glutes are not really shaped round in everything. They're not like that. If you look at a diagram of your glutes, it's big, it gets narrow all the way here, and it comes out there. It really looks like this. Your glute muscles, right? And if you overtrain that and you're lean, you're going to literally see that.
You're going to overemphasize.
Yeah, you're going to overemphasize that. So I think to fix this, like stretch fabric induced hip dips, don't wear high-waisted garments if you have a mesomorphic frame, and if your waist to hip ratio is not much different, then don't go for high-waisted garments. Obviously from the side you will end up with better looking glutes, but you have to trade off. Do I prefer my body to look good from one profile, which is the side, rather than having it look good from all three profiles, which is all 360 degrees? So I think work out what looks good for you. Not everyone looks good in these.
I have something. So also what you can do is just wear slightly thicker, stretchy fabrics.
Exactly, that's a good one.
Sometimes you just buy some really cheap
thin
leggings.
materials,
No, they're not even cheap anymore. They're expensive thin leggings.
Exactly, expensive, but But you need to buy thicker leggings that are actually, they're going to help you fill up the hip dips a bit more. Sometimes people be like, oh, before and then after my hip dips, but really, they've just got different type of different materials. So if the material is thicker, it's not going to go in every crater, and it's going to look a lot more smooth. And also, if you wear like high-waisted garments, don't wear the ones that are super tight with waistbands as well. If they're really tight and you're squeezing into them and they've got waistbands, the waistbands are going to clamp your body right above your hip bone right there. And it's going to overemphasize that kink right there. And it's going to end up literally going in and going into it because the waistband is literally sucking and contracting you in. So you're going to end up with worse hip dips if you're wearing stuff with waistbands and they're tight.
And it's worse if you have muscle trouble. So now we've just explained everything about hip dips and the 5 causes, and hopefully it's going to help you understand what type of hip dips you have and if you can change them.
You can also subscribe to our channel, like, comment, share the video if you think it helped you, and you can message Chi on Facebook or Instagram, Zygostatics, it's the same thing, and let her know any specific questions so she can give you a tailored solution to how to fix yours. Alright.
Well, great.
I have to do it.